You're watching KXAN-TV 36, Austin. First, best, live. This is News 36 at 6.
Voters said no to a tax hike, but now what will Austin Community College do?
That story in a moment, but first some breaking news tonight. Austin Fire Department is battling a 2-alarm fire just west of Zilker Park.
You're looking at a live picture from our tower cam. You can see the smoke there in the center of your screen. The fire started shortly before 5:30. It is in the 1300 block of Spyglass, which is very near the intersection of Bee Caves Road and Mopac. At this time, all that we know is that it's a 2-story structure. It was fully engulfed. Now firefighters, we're told, do have it under control. We have a crew on the scene. We'll have more information for you as it becomes available. Well, nearly 56% of Austin voters said no to the property tax increase Election Day.
Austin Community College was seeking to double the tax rate property owners pay. ACC officials say the Austin School District's tax increase in September most likely doomed their efforts to raise money. Now ACC must scale back their plans. That could affect you in one very important area, health care.
The bleeding has stopped. I've always wanted to be a paramedic.
The dream of becoming an emergency medical technician is what brought Donna DeBay King and the rest of these students to ACC.
Can you move your fingers for me?
The odds of King or one of these folks treating you in an emergency are high.
We are the sole suppliers of workforce-trained people for the Austin EMS.
Now you need to know King and her classmates are worried about the day practice is over and the emergency is real.
Without the proper room, without the proper equipment, we just won't be good out on the streets. So it did upset me yesterday that it did not pass.
King's chances of training with updated equipment got a whole lot slimmer when Austin voters rejected ACC's proposed property tax hike.
Most of the equipment that we have is dated. We've been unable to replace a lot of the equipment, and with all of the students using them, it's a lot of wear and tear.
While King says the vote will not keep her from her dream of becoming a paramedic, it will make it a lot harder for her and the rest of these future paramedics to get ready for the day they leave the class and hit the streets.
This is a sad day here for us at the paramedic program. You know, what are we going to do?
ACC officials claim they have a 100% employment rate for their graduates.
Both Governor Bush and Vice President Al Gore have outlined plans to allow tax dollars to fund certain religious programs. For example, making a church-based daycare center eligible for government funding. But many people don't like the idea. Religious leaders from across Texas voiced their opposition to the charitable choice concept today. They say it crosses the line between the separation of church and state.
Charitable choice is an abdication of government leadership in the common public responsibility of all Americans to care for our neediest citizens, regardless of their religion.
If implemented, these proposals would use tax dollars to fund church-based social services.
If you have a newer home, you probably have water-efficient toilets and faucets. That's because of national water efficiency standards for plumbing products. But a bill now in Congress would repeal those standards. Today, Texas lawmakers spoke out against this effort. They say by repealing the standards, Texas could increase water use by 750 million gallons a day by the year 2050. And that's enough to serve 12 million customers.
Sure, some of us may have to plunge a couple of times in the earlier years, or some of us may not have been able to get the soap off of us in a readily fashion. But technology has gotten to the point now to where it's not as big a problem as it once was.
Those lawmakers claim that without these conservation savings, parts of Texas will not have enough water for the future. We all love having choices, but if we're not informed, we don't always make the right ones. The Austin School District is launching a new program addressing just that.
Community volunteers are meeting with AISD 8th graders to show them that the choices they make today can have very long-lasting effects. As Nancy Miller tells us tonight, the program may prove educational for kids and adults as we all try to figure out what we want to be when we grow up.
So I graduated.
Faces of the future, facing the facts of life.
Would you like to have a vacation?
Yes.
Sure. Would you like to be paid when you're ill?
The facts of growing up. It's all about making choices, whether work-related or personal.
It was a consequence that I paid when I got married, just turning from 16 to 17, April of my junior year in high school.
Herman Thun is an architect. For him, some of the greatest lessons didn't come from design school. His hope is to impart some of that on them. A group of 13-year-olds facing pressures like broken families, drugs, changing bodies. But listen to this. First, the school principal.
I would hate to be a child today.
It's hard to be an adult. I don't know how you can do it.
The challenges that our students face in this world right now are mind-boggling.
You have to work. Well, it's easy to work, but you have to make a standard living to live on, and it's, you know, if you don't make enough.
Mutual admiration may lead to mutual understanding. Michelle Collins and her friends have already gone through the Choices program. The 8th grade, chosen specifically.
We have a thing that we say, this is the last free one that you get. It starts counting after this.
With all the unknowns life can throw at these kids, the biggest hurdle may be just making it to the 9th grade. You scared?
Yeah, a little bit.
Why?
I don't know. It's just I'm afraid to grow up.
In a sense, aren't we all? Nancy Miller, News 36.
The program is called Choices, and it's put together by Partners in Education, formerly known as Adopt-a-School. All AISD 8th graders will get 2 classes helping to make real-world connections between school and work.
2 men have been indicted today for the burning death of another man. George Morrison died in September after being set on fire in Austin. According to indictments, Michael Paisley and Edward Nunn are accused of pouring a flammable liquid on Morrison and lighting it. Morrison died shortly after the incident. 2 capital murder trials are underway at the Travis County Courthouse.
One involves the death of a woman at the Mystique Modeling Agency. The other is the case of a woman who went to a New Year's Eve party and never returned home. News 36's Santa Henderson joins us live now with more. Santa.
Stacey, the cases taking place involve young men in their 20s. Both defendants could face stiff penalties unless the juries decide otherwise.
He told me, he goes, we did something bad, and I don't want you to think bad of me.
He said, we did something bad.
We did something bad, and I don't...
This man, Justin Young, is in court facing capital murder charges for the January 1998 death of Crystal Davis at the Mystique Modeling Agency. The woman was beaten to death with a baseball bat. The district attorney's office says he and his girlfriend committed the crime. But family members say Young's only fault is being with his girlfriend, who's already received a life sentence.
He's easily misled by other people. But other than that, Justin could never murder anyone. He wouldn't even dream of, if he knew Cher was going to do that, there's no way he would have even taken her to the place.
In the 299th District Court, Corin Lamar McGinnis is accused of murdering this woman, Leticia Duarte McGee. Her body was found in a field in January 1997. The state says she was beaten and raped and last seen with McGinnis after a New Year's Eve party. The defendant's family says he's not guilty.
He couldn't have killed a flea, let alone a human being. He's not that type. He's very gentle. The more I know, that's my nephew. I love him, and he'll do nothing. Not to nobody, not to hurt nobody.
2 men, 2 brutal crimes, and soon both will know their fate. Now, both defendants say they are not guilty of the crimes of which they are accused. Stacey?
Santa, what kind of punishment do these 2 defendants face if they're found guilty?
Even though these are capital murder cases, the state is seeking life sentences instead of the death penalty. Robert, Stacey?
Thank you, Santa. Well, from the 30s up until, I guess, the 70s this afternoon, let's get an official check of that from Jim Spencer in the First Warning Weather Center.
That's just about right, Robert. 40-degree warm-up today out at the airport. Some of us saw our first freeze of the year last night. Some of us did not. We will take a look at how cold it was in your neighborhood in just a minute. We will not freeze tonight. 44 is our expected low in the city. We could see some 30s, though, in the rural areas. Mostly clear tonight, mostly sunny tomorrow, with a beautiful afternoon high of about 76. The 5-day forecast is on the way.
You're watching KXAN News 36 at 6 with Robert Hadlock, Stacy Scheibel, First Warning Weather with Jim Spencer, and Roger Wallace Sports.
Fall planting is underway for the Hill Country's newest pick-your-own fruit crop. We'll tell you all about it coming up.
Well, the fall planting season, of course, is well underway.
And one Hill Country man is working on what is believed to be the first pick-your-own strawberry field here in Central Texas. News 36's Pam Jackson has more from Burnett County.
Come springtime, Dan Copeland's 4.5-acre field will be full of strawberries.
He hopes his crop will draw berry lovers from all over.
Strawberries are a very romantic crop. People like to pick strawberries. It's fun. The kids get a big kick out of it. There's nothing like a good fresh strawberry.
Dan has been growing strawberries for 10 years in Houston, but it wasn't until recently that he decided to come back home to Marble Falls and grow his own.
This will be a pick-your-own orchard. Customers will be allowed to come out, and we'll give them a box. They can come out and pick as many or as few strawberries as they want. We'll just charge by the pound.
Dan and his crew will put 80,000 plants in the ground, and next year will have the potential of producing 80,000 pounds of fruit. For Copeland, planting these strawberries is more than just a cash crop.
We encourage people to bring their family out and just take it easy and pick some strawberries and have a good time.
Copeland says kids are his best customers because they're small and they can spot the berries easier. Pam Jackson, News 36.
Don't head out just yet. The strawberries at the Sweet Berry Farm will not be ready until March. If this crop does well, Copeland says he'll consider planting other types of berries.
Sounds good. Big bucket of strawberries. But with this weather, it's starting to feel a little more like fall and Christmas, Jim.
Isn't it beautiful autumn weather out there? Very cold this morning with the first freeze of the year in some places. Live WeatherNet low temperatures are coming up after this.
Well, we've got some cold weather here for a change.
A freeze this morning, but not everywhere. We do not yet have our first official freeze of the fall in the city, although Bergstrom Airport this morning out in the country a little ways did have a freeze, as did some other locations. Let's take a look at those. We'll begin tonight with live weather from Fredericksburg Middle School. You folks out in Fredericksburg, you had 31 degrees there at the middle school this morning, so you did have your first freeze. 59 is the current weather, and we are looking at this weather, by the way, live via the internet. Fredericksburg Middle School, the latest of our many sites. Gosh, I guess we're going on 40 of them now that have direct internet connections, meaning that you can access live weather from any of those sites from your own computer 24 hours a day by clicking on our website at KXAN.com. Fredericksburg Middle School, the latest live, directly internet-connected website and live WeatherNet site, thanks to AES Technology and Round Rock Nissan. We sure appreciate our sponsors. They make it all possible, kicking in hundreds of dollars worth of software and a computer, too, and we're sure glad to have it. All right, I told you we'd look at low temperatures. Did you freeze in your hometown? Burnet, Llano, Fredericksburg, Johnson City, Blanco, Lampasas? Yes, all of you did. Most of the Hill Country did have a freeze this morning, and even some of the places around the metro area. Hill Country Airport out there near Harper was the coldest at 25 degrees this morning. Liberty Hill, light freeze there, 32. In and around the city, though, many of us did stay above freezing this morning. Canyon Vista Middle School at 32, the first freeze of the year. But in the city, we have yet to see our first widespread freeze. Barton Springs Pool, that's a real low spot, of course, and it did briefly reach 32 degrees there this morning. And there again, those current conditions from Fredericksburg. Let's see current weather from Austin. 63 degrees at Camp Mabry off of Mopac, 58 degrees out in Del Valle at the airport. Skies are clear. Winds tonight, light and variable to southerly, pressure steady. High temperature today, 69 and 70 degrees. There's the low at Mabry this morning, 39. Pretty representative of the city, but 29 degrees out in the more rural areas like Bergstrom Airport. Molds today, no rainfall, so let's go to the pollen count. High and ragweed low, that's all down a little bit from yesterday. And finally, from the LCRA, lake levels, which are also down. We could sure use a little water out there in the Highland Lakes. Clear skies across Texas, a little patch of high cloudiness coming our way from West Texas, so we'll call it mostly clear tonight. Late tonight, we may see a high cloud move overhead. There are current readings around the state. Everybody pretty pleasant, 60s to lower 70s, depending on where you are. Winds, future surface winds out the next 48 hours, south and southeasterly, and that southeasterly component may bring in some more moisture to the point that we have low cloudiness maybe by a Friday morning, but otherwise there's not a lot going on. Big storm exiting the northeast, lots of lake effect snows in western New York State tonight, but everybody else fairly quiet. There's a little patch of the jet stream right there, a little band of strong upper level winds moving toward the Great Lakes, but that's the storm track, and that is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles north of Texas, so we don't see any weather of any significance coming our way anytime soon, other than that brief low cloudiness that may work in here as we see those southeasterly winds off of the Gulf of Mexico here over the next 48 hours. What about temperatures? Well, tonight, let's say 30s in the rural areas tonight, but low 40s in the city and around the city. High temperatures statewide tomorrow, should make it well up into the 70s. Overnight 44 in town, but 35 to 40 in the rural areas. Mostly clear, light southerly winds. Tomorrow's high 76 degrees, sunny. Southerly winds at 5 to 15. And a warming trend into the weekend will be 80 degrees or better by Saturday and Sunday with no more threat of freezing weather, but unfortunately no threat of any rain either for about a week, I think.
All right.
Thanks, Jim. Still to come, we're going to hear from one of the Spurs who may be the most affected by the arena vote.
And we're going to find out why UT's Hodges Mitchell has gone from a question mark to a weapon for the Horns. Roger Wallace is coming up next. Keep it here on KXAN.
Live WeatherNet, brought to you in part by Round Rock Nissan.
Good evening. It could not have gone better for the Spurs. They take care of business on the floor. The citizens and fans take care of an important piece of business off the floor yesterday, passing a referendum that will help pay for a new arena the Spurs need out of the Alamo, they say, to stay in San Antonio. And apparently that will happen. Last night, of course, picking up the rings, raising the championship banner, and then going to work in their opener. Now, you talk about the new arena. Nobody appears will be more effective than Tim Duncan by this. He's a free agent after this year. He wants stability. Knowing that the Spurs are staying might help Duncan sign. Meantime, Terry Porter had a big game with 15. He's one of the new guys. But the subject quickly came to Duncan in signing a new deal, but he was pretty non-committal.
And in the season, when decisions can be made, it's great. It's really exciting to put that behind us and look like the arena is going to pass and the Spurs are going to stay here. But my decision still comes at the end of the year.
How much will that sway your decision? A lot?
My decision will come at the end of the year.
Tim obviously loves playing here. He loves a group of guys here. And there's really, there'd be no reason to leave, if the team can stay here. If he knows the team's going to move around, then there's a little bit, you don't know what you want to do.
News not good in Houston. The Rockets lost their opener, and the vote was they voted down funding for a new arena there. Owner Les Alexander said he was devastated with the results. College hoops, you can get your first glimpse at the Longhorn men tonight at Gregory Gym. They'll play their orange-white scrimmage. That starts at 7 o'clock. Some baseball notes. Pedro Martinez, a runaway winner of baseball's Player of the Year. And why not? 23-4, 2.07 ERA. Chipper Jones was a distant second. Mike Hargrove has a new home. He was fired by Cleveland. Now the new manager in Baltimore. Turn our attention to Longhorns. They go to Oklahoma State on Saturday with the second most productive offense in the league. Majority of that, of course, through the air, but they have turned into a pretty good running team, thanks in large part to the progress of Hodges Mitchell. Here's Jim Matthews.
After 2 seasons backing up Ricky Williams, Hodges Mitchell had finally found the spotlight, starting the season one of the Longhorns' featured running backs. But after gaining just 100 yards in the first 3 games combined, Hodges nearly found himself without a job.
The week of the Rice game, Coach Brown was like, hey, you're in jeopardy of losing your starting spot. I mean, I like you as a person, but you're not producing on the field.
I told him once, you look like you got a magnet on your chest. You're just running into people, and you need to slow down and be patient and let things happen.
And things did start to happen. Good things. In his next outing, Mitchell peeled off 188 yards against the Owls, and in the last 6 games has 4 100-yard performances, including a 200-yard day against OU. He is now the second leading rusher in the Big 12 with 912 total yards. The difference, he says, is confidence.
When you run with a whole lot of confidence, it's real hard for people to tackle you one-on-one. And the way that I run, I try to make as many people miss as possible without taking many head-on shots. That's why I think I can play and be a durable back in college football.
He had never played, so every day he plays, he gets better. And he learns more about what to do and how to do it, and he's tough as nails.
Brown says judging by the last 3 games, you'd have to call Mitchell a big-time back in college football. That's a long way to come from the first 3 games. Jim Matthews, News 36 Sports.
That really is amazing. He could go 1,100 yards for the year. It'd be great to see.
Looks good. It does. Well, coming up, we have more.
Scientists discover bones that could be the remains of the largest creature ever to roam Earth. Details next on News 36.
Well, scientists have made a mammoth discovery in Oklahoma.
It's actually one that makes a mammoth look like a mouse. Based on vertebra from the creature, experts estimate that it stood 60 feet tall and weighed some 60 tons. That means it could peer into a 6-story window, and then it probably shook the ground when it walked by. Those facts prompted scientists to call the creature Sauroposeidon, which means earthquake god lizard. The bones were unearthed back in 1994.
Huge.
That's something.
Wow. Cold again tonight.
They're growing big up in Oklahoma, don't they? Let's take a look here at what's happening 5-day forecast-wise. Not a freeze tonight, but still chilly, and a beautiful day tomorrow. Real nice weather through the weekend.
Wait, you're from Oklahoma.
That's right. I'm not that.
What happened? See you tonight at 10.
Good night.